Alrighty, audio is up. Intro time, motherfuckers. I'll edit that out. I know. It's habit.
You're the one that said that we couldn't do that. And
literally.
Anyway.
He said, make sure not
Alrighty.
whatsoever.
Hey guys. Welcome to what is supposed to be episode 2, but is probably going to be episode 1 because of the audio mess up. Which sucks because we did talk about a lot of things. Dak Prescott's contract negotiations, the Panthers 2020 offseason awfulness, the Jalen Hurts situation in Philadelphia, and the Patriots post-Tom Brady plans. Maybe in a future podcast we'll go back to those 4, which probably would be a better idea. But tonight, we're going to start off with a news segment. Berta?
He's gone. I heard a doorbell and he was gone.
Bruh.
Doorbell, dog bark. There he is.
Berta, you good?
I can't hear.
I'm about to say, I'm not the only one that can't hear him, right?
No.
Oh, sorry, I muted it. Sorry. But someone on the doorbell. It was UPS.
Oh my god.
That won't happen.
Buddha, I swear.
Hey, Chloe, no one's at the door. It's just the UPS package. He dropped it off and left.
Alrighty.
Sorry.
The start of today's episode will include a new segment we like to hear called Fantasy Madness, and our resident fantasy expert, Carl, will take it from here.
What am I taking from here?
Okay, first off, before we get to the fantasy segment, Delby Buddha, I said I had something to show you. Carl already knows about it because I already told him.
No way.
This is our fantasy league championship that came in today.
Yes, sir.
This thing weighs like 20
Love to
pounds.
see it. It's going to have my name on it, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
That's if Buddha, for you to have your name on this thing, you actually have to, participate this year.
Listen here. Okay, I got this.
Alrighty.
We had the second pick originally, but hey, we're not going to talk about it.
Alright, gonna put
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
I'm gonna put Carl on the spot here. Carl, fantasy breakout star from last year that will have the same or better production this year.
Same or better? I'm actually going to lean towards Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook, Minnesota.
Going Dalvin Cook because the opportunity is still going to be there. The line should be better. They just lose Stephon Diggs, who's so yeah, I definitely think he should at least be as good, if not better.
Yeah, well, all right, I'm gonna put a couple questions just based off of. I'm gonna take a person from all 4 of our teams that you wouldn't expect me to throw at you. For the Philadelphia Eagles, this is pretty plain and simple. Jalen Hurts.
In dynasty leagues, I definitely think he's a really good pick in all dynasty leagues, which are leagues that, of course, get played year after year. You just generally pick the young players that you think will succeed over time. As far as redraft leagues and keeper leagues going into this season, I don't think he's going to hold much value.
Y'all can't do that. I'm sorry.
But if you have a bench spot into your draft and you want to play backup quarterback and you're content with the quarterback you have, you might as well take a shot.
All right. I'll go with. I'll go. Let's see. Cowboys.
Ooh.
Considering the news that broke out earlier, Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard is a good play in any type of league.
Are we talking about a sleeper pick, wise?
We're just talking about, I'm picking a player from each of our teams and just kind of seeing what Carl's thoughts are on how they could produce in 2020.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Fantasy
still want
wise.
to ask them nothing about my team, bro. I know all about it.
Oh, I know.
Tony
By the
Pollard.
way, I can hear G-Man in the back, Dobby.
He's playing his game. Tony Pollard is a good fit in any form of football this year, I would say. I think I definitely have him top 30 in my rankings right off the top of my head, just because the value will be there, because they can't continue to give Zeke the volume that they do. I mean, they can, but he's going to wear out.
And he's a playmaker. Pollard's a playmaker. I mean,
He's quick. Tony Pollard's real quick with the ball in his hand. I don't know how effective he is on special team, but that could definitely probably be a role for him if they needed it to be. But yeah, I definitely see him being a later round pick. You want to stash him on your bench if he gets hurt. He as a plug and play bot starter, I could probably see you could get by with him.
All right. The Colts, pretty simple considering y'all just signed him to his rookie deal earlier today. Michael Pittman Jr.
Michael Pittman, I currently have out of the top 60 wide receiver. Basically, I don't know what he's going to be for us. I know he will line up primarily on the opposite side of T.Y. Hilton. But as far as volume goes, Phillip Rivers really likes to throw to the tight end. Really likes throwing to the tight end. T.Y. is getting older. But as he's kind of in the same boat as Jalen Hurts. Really good pick for dynasty leagues. Redraft, he's probably going to go drafted in 10-team leagues. 12-team leagues, he might in the bottom half of a draft. Definitely a good stash if you have the bench spot available.
Okay. Carolina's is a little bit of a question mark, but I could go 2 or 3 people here. But I'm going to go Robbie Anderson.
I currently have him ranked as wide receiver 33, I believe, at the year. Deep play, that's what he's known for. For going deep, running deep. If Teddy can get in the ball, he could have a lot of upside going into the season. He's going to get drafted in almost every type of league this season because I think he's only 26, 27. So he's still got a lot of tread left, and New York never really used it in the way that they should have to begin with. And, of course, they always had Sam Darnold throwing in the ball.
In the dirt.
So if Teddy can get him the ball effectively while DJ and Curtis run underneath routes.
sorry. Let's see that.
He should definitely be a high upside guy going into this year. We'll probably go around round 10, 11 in redraft.
Yeah. All right. I'm probably going to regret this next question, but this will be the final question of the fantasy segment. I'm probably going to regret this, but who do you think has more fantasy upside this year, Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott?
Oh, easy.
I'm probably going to regret asking this.
The more upside it's got to be Dak.
Of course.
I currently have Dak as quarterback 4, just because of all the weapons he has, and that's not really a knock against Carson. I still have Carson at 7, but the amount of weapons Dallas has, if anybody in that offense is going to have a huge year, it's going to be Dak for fantasy.
All right. Well, this next segment, we're actually going to go into a topic. All right. Delby, starting with yours. Really, the only two things to be talked about this team, because they are legit awful, follow with wide receiver A.J. Green and newly drafted quarterback Joe Burrow. You have the floor.
Okay. So what I think about the Bengals offseason was their head coach, the hiring of who they hired. I don't think that was a great hire for them. I liked Joe Burrow as the number one pick. Of course, you wouldn't pass on him. I don't know how he's going to transition to the NFL. I'm still skeptical on that because I know there's a lot of people that think he's going to be really good. But I don't know. I've watched him, and I don't think he has the weapons that he had at LSU that he has with the Bengals. Therefore, I don't think he's going to be as dominant and clutch as he was at LSU, in my opinion. The AJ Green situation, I don't agree with them franchise tagging him. I think they should have extended him because right now that's their best player, and they also have Joe Mixon, who's very inconsistent with fantasy wise. I have him on the fantasy team, and he was very inconsistent. But I don't know. I think they're trending upwards though from where they're at. I think that the quarterback letting go of Andy Dalton was a good idea. It's kind of starting over. I think AJ Green, if he can stay healthy, will have a breakout year and do really good. And I don't see them competing in the AFC North. I still see them maybe winning 4 to 6 games max. But I think it all just depends on really Joe Burrow and the offense. I think the defense is okay, but they're just in such a tough division where they can't even win 4 or 5 games. So I don't know. I think they had a good offseason, but I don't think they're anywhere close to being contenders for their division or to be in the playoffs or anything of that matter. So,
yeah, you pretty much hit it. I mean, when AJ Green is healthy and on the field, game changer. 2011, 2015, 1,000 yards every season. 2016, the only reason he didn't have 1,000 yards is because injury issues. Had another 1,000 yard in 2017. But in 2018, where he only played 9 games, he had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's crazy. And then obviously he didn't play last year, and the Bengals had the number 1 pick for a reason. They were terrible. Dalton got benched. Ryan Finley, NC State, came in. He was even worse. Their defense was historically bad. And like you said, they franchised AJ Green. AJ Green hasn't signed the franchise tender because he wants a long-term deal. But for them to let AJ Green, their best receiver in franchise history, walk when you have this young rookie coming in who put up over 5,000 yards passing and 60 passing touchdowns last year, leading LSU to their first national championship in over a decade. You need somebody like that. You need a veteran. And yes, they took T. Higgins way too early, might I add. But T. Higgins is a really good receiver. But like Delby said, they're in the AFC North. They're in there with Baltimore, who has overloaded this offseason. They're in there with Pittsburgh. And if Pittsburgh is healthy, they will be a playoff team. And the Browns, who knows? But I don't think he's going to transition well in his first year. I don't think he will be in contention for Rookie of the Year. And I think the Rookie of the Year I could easily see it going to Washington's Chase Young, Detroit's Jeff Okudah, Arizona's Isaiah Simmons. I could see it more of like defense offense, but as far as Cincinnati as a whole goes, 4 or 5 wins max, but I think they did take a few small steps into becoming a better team.
Here's the thing you're forgetting about, though. Here's the thing. When Joe Burrow transferred to LSU from Ohio State, he didn't settle in very much. Like, he didn't settle in right away. You can't hear me?
No, I can't. Just got a report that Brandon Brooks tore his ACL today.
Oh my gosh. Oh my lordy.
Ouch.
Figures. Well,
All right, Buddha, go ahead.
That just sucks. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Joe Burrow is a hit or miss though, most definitely. I mean, 'cause I feel like when he played for LSU, he played a pro style offense, and we saw how successful he was. Like, that offense was a machine when it came to everything. So I think he has the weapons to play well. It's just a matter of him meshing into the offensive scheme. I mean, the game's obviously faster in the NFL versus college, but I mean, I think he can make the adjustment if he works hard. And I mean, I think he can do well. I think he do well, but I think they'll be set 4-6, probably the window they'll be at. I think he'll definitely put up some good numbers though. Definitely not rookie of the year numbers, but just because they have a ton of studs in the lineup for that draft class. So, but yeah, 4-6 games probably for the Bengals.
Yeah, I absolutely. Anywhere from 4 to 6 seems like a really good spot for that. The only thing with Joe Burrow is that he's going to be 24 by the time the season starts. And he's not young compared to even guys like Tua, who I think is only 21.
Yeah.
So going into the first big contract Joe Burrow signed, minus the fifth year, he'll just be 29.
100%.
Yeah.
I definitely think he will have the numbers this year under Zach Taylor, but the team's going to struggle just because the defense hasn't gotten any better, really. And most of their big players on defense are getting older. Geno Atkins was 31, 32 years old. But yeah, I think y'all know it. 6 wins would be a good spot. Definitely the bottom AFC North. But yeah, they should, in a couple of years, good. Probably win fighting for the playoff team. If they
give us some stars on defense, give them some pass rushers. I think they'll be solid.
Yeah, I do think Joe Mixon, however, this year is gonna be a huge player for the.
Agreed.
I hope so. I always pick him every year.
Well, hey.
They're gonna want to.
Well, hey, Carl, if you remember how many yards he had in our Madden league, so
yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean that pretty much explains it with Cincinnati. I think they will have a top 10 pick again for the 2021 draft. That's barring if we get a 2021 draft.
I agree.
Alrighty. Next, we're gonna go to Carl's topic and kind of concerns a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. New York Jets safety Jamal Adams.
Uh-oh. Texas boy.
All right, boys. Texas boy went to you 6th overall pick in 2017. Been the center of a lot of trades, mostly with the Dallas Cowboys. I haven't heard any other teams actually thrown into the ring. But ever since October, Dallas has been on the phone with New York. Asking price has been a little high. I personally think it's a little high. I mean,
it makes sense for him, but
I think
the market's just the way it runs. But yeah, I don't think it's definitely necessary for what he's asking for.
I agree. Definitely think I think they were asking for at least 2 1s. It's C. But the thing with the Jets is that they know Dallas is probably going to be a decent team. So they're going to be 2 late first-round picks. And let's see, over 3 seasons, 272 tackles, 6 forced fumbles, 2 picks, and 12 sacks safety position. He's only missed 2 games in 3 years. 2-time Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro last year. He said recently that exit done. And I definitely think it should be done. New York isn't cap-strapped by any stretch of the imagination, but they have a lot of players on big deals that they need to shed some of. Personally, I think the deal needs to get done, and he will probably end up being the highest-paid safety in the league. Currently, there are 5 big safeties making over $13.75 million a year. Ed Jackson, Kevin Byard, Tyron Matthew, and Earl Thomas. Oh, and Collins, who signed that huge extension. Yeah, I definitely think Paul Adams is a better player than all of them put together. I don't see him getting, but if he does, will be to Dallas. It just depends on if the Jets feel like they're going to be a contender or not.
Well, here's my thing with Sam Darnold. I mean, I feel like the Jets organization as a whole, especially the higher up positions, I think they have faith in Sam Darnold. I think he's shown somewhat of not elite quarterback status, but mediocre, pretty solid, like definitely $1 million contract up there, high up there for him. But I think they wanted to give him weapons besides Le'Veon. So I feel like if they would do a deal with Dallas, it would be to get a crap ton. Like, I mean, it would be a big time deal. But I mean, I feel like Dallas would be the most reasonable one. If Dallas ended up getting Jamal from a bunch of draft picks, that team would be put together like pretty much perfectly to what Mike McCarthy would want a team.
I agree.
I mean, which they'd be forced to be reckoned with in the next year if that deal get done. But
They still find a way to lose, and that makes
all right, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. I'm just saying theoretically, those are good pieces to the puzzle. It's a good way to win ball games, you know.
As far as it comes to Jamal Adams, and this just kind of shows how it's changed. At the trade deadline last year, the Jets were this close to trade him to Dallas. They had agreed on a first-round pick, Dallas's first-round pick, which ended up turning into CD Lamb. The Jets wanted a third. Jerry was only giving up a fourth, and things fell apart. It fell apart over a mid-round second day 3 pick. If I was Dallas only giving up a first and a third for an elite safety, I would have taken it right then and there. But as far as Jamal goes, I mean, if you ask me, he's the best safety in the league. And he's going to get his money, whether it's from Dallas, whether it's from the Jets, whether it's from someone else. He's going to get his $15 million a season, as he deserves it. I mean, dude has 12 sacks as a safety. That's unheard of. But when it comes to the Jets, I think the earlier they get him signed, the better. It's kind of the same thing with the Dak Prescott thing. Because the later this goes on with Jamal, the more another safety gets signed. And with Dak's situation, if Dallas does not get him re-signed before Patrick Mahomes, they're in trouble.
Oh, don't worry about that.
I'm just using it as a point. I'm just using it as a point.
I'm tired of it. It's going to happen. It's just what's going to be. It's America's team. He wants to shine, be the
We're
guy.
not even talking about. We're not talking about Dallas. We're talking
It's
about
all
the Jets
good.
here.
All right.
Dallas has been
We
confident.
gotta straighten it up.
Every single subject we talk about.
Sorry, bro.
Biggie, are you done? Or
Yep.
Can I go?
Yep, man, go ahead.
Okay. So I think that the Jets are going to end up signing him. I don't think Dallas is going to do it because, one, they had a chance to sign Earl Thomas, and it fell apart for the same reason as they didn't sign him last offseason. And so, also, if they do end up trading for Jamal Adams, he's still going to want his money, so they're going to have to extend him. And if mentioning Dak, if the Cowboys Dak wants a lot of money, and I don't know if they have enough cap space to make him the highest paid safety in the league, plus sign Dak to that monster contract. So I don't think it's a good idea for the Cowboys to pick him up. But I think if the Jets had a good, I think, draft in offseason for like an okay. I wouldn't say amazing, but what they really needed was to build up the defense and give Sam Darnold just kind of surrounding weapons. And
Took Denzel Mims, right?
And they drafted I think they drafted like a couple. I know they drafted like an offensive tackle with their first pick.
And McKay back then.
Protect Sam Darnold, which was good. They lost Robbie Anderson, but they drafted a wide receiver from Baylor, I believe.
Denzel Mims.
Yep, which I think was a fantastic pick. And then they got cornerbacks and edge rushers, which they really needed on defense. So, plus they were, if I'm not mistaken, a 7-9 team last year, which isn't bad for the division. So, and thinking about that, I think they can have another solid year. I'm not saying they'll make the playoffs, but I think that whole division is going to be interesting just to watch in general. I don't think there's going to be one clear-cut answer to who's going to win the division this year, just because we haven't. It's the first year without Brady in the division in almost 20 years. So But yes, I think the Jets will end up signing Jamal Adams and because he's the key to that defense and the leader of that defense, and he brings in fans and money and all that type of stuff. So I think it'd be a huge mistake if they traded him to the Cowboys or anywhere else. I think he should just give him what he wants because I believe, is worth what he would be paid.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we all agreed on most points there with them. Speaking of drafting wide receivers, let's go to a team that didn't draft a wide receiver in the NFL draft in the most deep wide receiver class in the modern era. Buddha, this is your topic. The Green Bay Packers and their awful decision in the first round to take Jordan Love out of Utah State.
Listen. Me being a Dallas Cowboys fan, I know a thing or two about playing the Packers. Okay, I've seen how good of a quarterback Aaron Rodgers is, especially when there's like a minute and below. Usually when
you never give Aaron Rodgers time.
Better than any quarterback in the league.
You never give Rodgers time on a
clock.
clock.
You say Brady, but I mean it's fine. You're going to tell me he's going to put up these numbers for you, have these consistent playoff runs, do these crazy things week in and week out. Y'all praise him. Y'all put him on everything. Discount, double check. The Chiefs heads love him. Yeah, the organization is going to just go ahead and just get a quarterback that's been talked about as a probably elite to mediocre level quarterback in the league. Not one of the best, but has potential. You're going to pick a person like that, which is it's a roll the dice kind of player, rather than these wide receivers that probably the best receiving class I've seen in a while, arguably, probably. I mean, the receiving core from Alabama was just ridiculous. I mean, they all were first rounders. I mean, you see Oklahoma, ton of good receivers. I mean, ton of other players too. But you're going to pick Jordan Love. I mean, I get you want a security blanket, but securing what? They have no weapons. They haven't drafted a receiver in the draft since, I can't even tell you when. I mean, I don't have the numbers up, but I don't think they've drafted one in years. So
they haven't drafted a wide receiver in the first round the entire time Aaron Rodgers has been starting for that team.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I feel for Packers fans. There's a lot of people that are upset about it, which they have a right to be because which it's not Jordan Love's fault by any means.
No,
I don't want to put it.
He can't take you drafting.
You're getting drafted to this team. You don't have a say in it. You're just picked from a college team. You did your job. You're going to make millions. You made it. Congratulations. I have no problems with him, but I just don't think the situation was very well thought out.
Well, when it comes to
pushing him out like Favre.
Yeah, agreed. When it comes to Green Bay, they were 13-3 last year, but they were a lot worse than what the record showed. And the 49ers exposed them in the NFC Championship game. And I don't think their head coach, Matt LaFleur, is that good of a coach. I don't think he likes Aaron Rodgers. I think that was made crystal clear with this pick when you had Denzel Mims still on the board, Patrick Queen still on the board, T. Higgins, who still was too early, but sometimes you got to reach. T. Higgins was still on the board. I mean, and Green Bay could have gone defense. Patrick Queen, and could have gone they could have gone Xavier McKinney from Alabama, who the Giants ended up getting. Jordan Love. He didn't have a great year last year, but to be fair, his coach from the previous year left, and he lost like 75% of his weapons, which isn't his fault. But he's not going to play for 1 or 2 years, even though I think it's only going to be a year because I fully believe at this point next year we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers on a different team. But I mean, you look at his weapons, it's Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Devontae Adams, who almost put up 1,000 yards this year, only playing 12 games, put up like 997. It's technically 1,000. 5 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, who put up over 1,000 rushing yards and had the second most touchdowns from running back in the league behind Christian McCaffrey with 16. That was it. I mean, you had Jimmy Graham showed out a little bit, but he's in Chicago now with their like 15 tight ends. And the rest of the receivers, sometimes they had good games, but other times they didn't. And their defense is lackluster at best. And they're not well coached. And I think the Vikings run away with this division. I think Chicago has the potential if they can keep Nick Foles healthy and on the field, because even if they go Trubisky will not be the starting quarterback for this team for very long.
Delby's boy, Nick Foles.
I think Nick Foles will be the starter in Chicago by week 5 at the absolute latest. I think Chicago will be better. And I think Detroit might be better than some people think. They are also poorly coached, but I think they'll
Matthew
be.
Stafford's gonna have a good year.
I think they'll be better than people think. So personally, I see
Big Brady's
Green.
back.
I see Green Bay as
I don't
on the
know.
lower side of the division in terms of drop off. If I had to pick for them, I'd say 8-8, 9-7 with them missing the playoffs.
So when I think about this pick, I think it was terrible. Like it was the worst thing I think. I can understand it because the Eagles, my team took a quarterback when we didn't need to, but Aaron Rodgers hasn't been hurt or gotten hurt like Carson Wentz has, so
There's
it
also
makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is 36 years old and he's getting old, but he threw for the regular season. He threw 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions with a QBR of 95.4, and that was a down year for him, but
that's
still
pretty
good
much a
for
career
quarterback
year for
with the
half of the
weapons he
league.
had last year, and he took the team to the NFC Championship. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to finish his career in Green Bay. I think them drafting Jordan Love was a smack in the face to him. I think it'll be interesting to see where he goes, or if they release him or trade him, or however that goes. But yeah, I think it opens the division up right for the Vikings, which I hate because I just don't like the Vikings. But
It's fair.
yeah, I think
It's not the Vikings, though. We're trying to limit with the Vikings, bud.
I think the division to be opened up. I want it to be interesting. Plus, Aaron Rodgers has done a lot for Green Bay, and they do that. So, yeah, I think it was the worst pick in the. Nothing like you said, but no offense to Jordan Love, it's not on him. He's a good quarterback, but I think it was the worst pick in the draft. Not very smart. I think 8 or 9 games, like Ian said. But then again, their offense is very predictable because they only have Devontae Adams. They have Aaron Rodgers, and then
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Lazard.
That's all they're going to
buddy.
use, and that's really all I believe that they're. Excuse me.
Come on, man. Lazard? What about Lazard?
No.
Receiver?
No.
Alan Lazard? Is that his name?
No. So, yeah, I believe that, they'll be in a lot of close games, but I don't see them, Super Bowl contenders, maybe not even playoff contenders.
I hope they ball out.
I don't
That'd be
know.
dope.
It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, I think the whole pick in itself was stupid. It made zero sense to me. And so that's just what I think.
I will add something really quick. A couple years ago when Aaron Rodgers got hurt in Minnesota and was out for most half of the year, if he gets hurt again, he does not get that job back.
All right, let's see. Not only did I have Jordan Love at worst in the first round, I have the Packers in my draft grade as the worst draft overall. I actually gave them an F, which I haven't done the team in 4 years or something like that. Not only was Jordan Love a bad pick, they also picked A.J. Dillon, who's a bowling ball running back out of Boston College. Then they picked a tight end named Josiah DeBora in the 3rd round to play fullback. But keeping up, I definitely don't think Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay much longer, maybe a year, as Ian said. This definitely signals the end of the run that they've been on in that division. Definitely don't see them winning more than 8 games, and that's their defense bad. It's not good. And as all of the others, no weapons outside of Devontae Adams, and even Aaron Jones. His stats looked really good, but there was a couple games last year where he was terrible.
He had dead periods, definitely, where he wasn't really hot. But when he was hot, dude, he scored, 6 touchdowns in a game, something like that?
He had definitely some stat inflating games. He had over 200 rushing yards in one game last season, something like that. I agree with their head coach. Matt LaFleur isn't a great coach. I don't exactly remember where he was from before he got this job.
He was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, where they were 26th in total offense.
Yeah. It wasn't a great signing when they made it. It didn't make any sense to me. The Jordan Love pick it's not his fault that he got here. And I honestly think that given the right situation, if they don't make him sit for 3 or 4, he could be a really solid quarterback in this league. He has all the arm talent in the world compared to Patrick Mahomes, which is insane. But I don't think there's going to be another guy for a generation or two.
I mean, if you look at it in terms of that, Green Bay is trying to prevent drafting quarterback-wise what the atrocity that happened in 2017 in Chicago.
Oh, I agree.
Like,
I
they
agree.
took Mitch Trubisky with 1 year of starting.
Marcus Russell, and now Mitchell Trubisky is the benchmark for what not to do.
Yeah, but like
Not
to
Sean
get
Watson in the draft class, Lamar's in the draft class.
not to get off topic, but I do want to talk about this for a second. 2017, they trade up one spot to the farm to San Francisco, who was never taking Mitch Trubisky, to take Trubisky. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson is an elite quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, I don't need to say anything. And Lamar Jackson, at the end of the first round, was the MVP last year. So you took Trubisky over the MVP this past year. Last year's 2 years ago's MVP and the Super Bowl MVP this year. And Deshaun Watson, who on a play last year against Vegas got kicked in the face into a touchdown pass. That's all I want to talk about with the Trubisky thing, but he went from a number 2 overall pick to his ass is going to be sitting on the bench by week 5. And he will not be in the league in 2 years.
Definitely agree. Packers are probably 3rd or 4th in that division. Detroit's on the come up. I don't think Chicago's good, but if they let Nick Foles play the game Nick Foles wants to play, I definitely think that they could be successful. Don't see more than 7, 8 win, probably 3rd in the division. Chicago probably wins games. And Detroit is a really solid team, but as y'all said, Minnesota's probably going to run away with the North.
I mean, and you look at what Minnesota did. I mean, Kirk Cousins actually won a big game this past year.
Yeah, but that doesn't do enough for me, though. He just won 1 game.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying.
So I still don't think he's worth as much as he's paid.
No, he's not worth that at all. But
I agree. Not worth that money.
Dalvin Cook, if he can stay on the field, is going to be good. I mean, you got Adam Thielen, and yes, they traded away Stephon Diggs, but they went, you look at the Eagles. They didn't take Justin Jefferson like I thought they should have, and the Vikings were behind him and just took him.
Stephon Diggs was a must trade, though. He didn't want to be there.
No, he didn't want to be there at all.
He didn't on the roster. He didn't want to be.
Yeah, there was an issue in the locker room, definitely.
All right, the last, of the 4 topics that we come up with, and I literally have a page of notes on this because of how bad it is the rise and fall from the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars to now. Late 2017, this team was one bad call reversed away from playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and now they are in the tank for Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. That quick. But they did win the division in 2017. Why? Andrew Luck was out the whole year. You had Deshaun Watson tore his ACL midway through the season, and the play of former Oregon quarterback Marcus Mariota was again showed why Tennessee failed to draft a franchise quarterback. They were 10-6, got to the first time playoffs and God knows how many years. Blake Bortles, terrible once again. This team was in the playoffs because of arguably, historically, one of the best defenses this league has ever seen. They led the league in forced fumbles with 17. Completion percentage, quarterbacks had 56% completion percentage against this defense. Passing yards, they only allowed 170 per game. Passer rating, under 70. And defense was nasty. And they had 7 defensive touchdowns. They were second in the league in turnovers. They had 33 forced turnovers. And it started with the defensive line, which had 55
Calais
sacks,
Campbell,
which
who's a
had
monster.
second in the league. You had Malik Jackson, Dante Fowler, Calais Campbell, and I'm just going to go Yannick because I'm not going to try to butcher his name. But then that was the defensive line. You had Miles Jack at linebacker, who is still the only one that is still on this team. Then there was what I'm calling lockdown islands. Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye in 2017 were the two best corners in the National Football League. You had Jalen Ramsey, who was in his second year out of Florida State, and then you had AJ Boye, who came over in free agency from Tennessee. Jalen had 4 interceptions and 17 pass defenses, but receivers averaged like 30 yards a game on him. I mean, he was locked down. He went to the Pro Bowl for the first time in his career. He got first team All-Pro, and Boye was even better. Didn't make first team All-Pro, but he should have. He had 6 picks, 18 pass deflections, and they both got Pro Bowl honors. Then 10-6, they go into Pittsburgh, where everyone's expecting them to get smacked around. Blake Bortles had more rushing yards than passing yards in this game. And then their defense destroys Ben Roethlisberger alive, and they get to the AFC Championship game. Jaguars in the AFC Championship game. Not something we're going to be saying for a long time. And they dominated this game too. I mean, they were up 20-10 at one point, and then came the most controversial playoff call that year. Dion Lewis got handed the ball. Miles Jack stripped him of the ball, picked it up, and ran it back for what should have been a touchdown and a 27-10 lead. But the ref blew the whistle, which marked the play dead, which means they couldn't review it. In those situations, I'm always a believer of let the dude run to the end zone and get it right in replay. If they would have done that, Jacksonville would have been awarded for a touchdown. It would have been 27-10. All the momentum. There is no way, shape, or form that New England comes back, even with Brady, against that defense. It would have been Philly and Jacksonville in the Super Bowl that year. It should have been Philly and Jacksonville in the Super Bowl that year. I mean, that changed the game. They went 3-and-out. Patriots scored on 3 straight possessions and won 24-20, and we ended up losing to Philly in the Super Bowl a couple weeks later.
Changed the game, and there wouldn't have been no Philly that would have happened because Calais Campbell would have sacked Carson Wentz for the next century.
Nick Foles was starting, my friend.
Sorry, Nick Foles was in the game, buddy.
Oh, wait, I forgot.
Oh, people going to be calling you up, my friend.
MVP quarterback was hurt, my bad.
And then 2018 comes around, and they have this great start, but they fall off. And the 2018 season, which, I mean, you had Andrew Luck coming back, Watson coming back, and the Titans were, once again, Marcus Mariota down into the bed, which sucks because I've always liked Marcus. And then after the 2018 season, they kicked Bortles to the curb, gave Nick Foles a massive contract. They then went on to draft Gardner Minshew from out of Washington State in the 4th to 6th. I can't remember which round Gardner was taken in. And then you had, and out through the next couple years, you had Malik Jackson left in free agency and signed with Philadelphia. You had Dante Fowler was traded to the Rams in mid-2018 for a 2019 third and 2020 fifth. Calais Campbell finished the season in Jacksonville, but in March that he was traded for a 5th-round pick to the Ravens of all teams.
Good God, dude.
And then the only one left is Yannick, but he's made it abundantly clear that he wants out of Jacksonville. And his name has been linked and rumored to Philadelphia for as long as I can remember. But at this point, I don't think he plays. He does not want to be in Jacksonville. It's simple as that. He even had a Twitter beef with the owner's son, who also is the owner of All Elite Wrestling, Tony Khan. Like,
oh, no way.
Like, the guy who provides the money for AEW was having a Twitter argument with one of his best players. Like, it's clear Yannick does not want to be there. And then came the corners. Jalen Ramsey wanted out. He's in LA with the Rams now. At 2020-2021 first and the 2021 fourth went back to Jacksonville. Do not remember who they took with that 2020 first this year.
Chase on?
Yep. I think it was Chase on LSU. 2 years after earning first-team All-Pro honors. A.J. Boye was not far behind this past offseason. He was traded to Denver. Denver, I'm telling you, Broncos are going to be a problem for a 2024. And Miles Jack is the only one that is left, like I said, and he signed a 4-year, $57 million extension before the start of last year, and I don't think he spends that 4 years in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a dumpster fire. They're not well coached. I love Gardner Minshew, but he is not the future of that position. Then you have Leonard Fournette, who did have a bounce-back year last year, but he can't stay on the field. You really don't have anybody at wide receiver except for DJ Chark. And then in 2016, 2017, they had Allen Robinson and Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee is almost out of the league at this point and is in New England. Allen Robinson is the most underrated wide receiver this league has and is producing all-pro numbers with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback up in Chicago. And then just to end it off, they gave all that money to Nick Foles. He lasted one game. Got hurt in the opener against Kansas City. Minshew Mania took over from there. And they say that's their guy, but as I said, they're going to be bad. Real bad. Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, will be playing in Jacksonville next year. And like I said, that's 4 years removed from one play, putting them in the Super Bowl. That's Jacksonville.
So, yeah, you kind of touched on everything I was going to say. Since the AFC Championship appearance they made, they've been 11-21. And I honestly believe that this upcoming year, they can add another 16 games to their loss resume. I don't even know if they'll win a game, if we're going to be honest. I think they're going to be that bad. I think an upside to that, though, is Minshew will be playing to prove himself this year because everyone is saying they were one of the teams for the top spot, which will definitely be going to Trevor Lawrence. So I think Minshew has a lot to prove this year, and he will prove himself, but I don't think it's enough to win, to not have the number one pick. They don't have – I think Big E said they maybe have one or two players left from that championship game on their roster. They're a completely different team. Tom Coughlin was fired also for a good reason. But, yeah, I just think the whole mess from – and the thing was, with the team they were up in the fourth quarter with 10 minutes left, ready to go to the Super Bowl, and then Brady took over, of course, like he does. But, yeah, it's crazy what's happened in the 2 years since then. I think this year is going to be horrendous how bad it'll be, but I think, a couple of years moved out from now, I think they're going to be contenders again. I think they're just going to rebuild their team just like the Packers will, the Jets will, and the Bengals are. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Minshew does this year with the limited talent that he has on his team. But, yeah, I predict that 0 to 2 range of wins max, in my opinion. I don't think they'll win anymore. But
yeah, I agree. No more than 2 wins in any situation. It's hard to predict a team to lose all 6 teams, but if a team is going to, it would be this team. Gardner's going to be playing graded somewhere else because he's not going to be the future of that team.
No.
So if he has a good year, maybe he gets a second chance with another team. More than likely, he's going to sit and be the backup quarterback until his contract expires. But yeah, Ian, you pretty much covered everything that I had as well.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you do a full page worth of notes.
for sure.
But yeah, that 2017 team was it was a once in a lifetime defense for the situation that they were in. The way the offense played, they never deserved to make it that far. And with the roster turnover, somehow they still have the same head coach they had.
Yeah, Doug Marrone is not it.
Doug Marrone is not the answer. He's been on the hot seat since that championship game.
Yes.
But he continues to get re-signed.
That's my thing with Jacksonville. It's like you have this one good year and things worked. You blow the team up, and your front office management, Tony Khan, I forget what the actual owner's name is. But I mean, you keep Marone, he was in Buffalo, he was terrible. In Jacksonville, he was not the reason that team was in the AFC Championship game. The defense was.
I also want to add that the 5th round pick for Calais Campbell is it might be one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
To just get a 5th round pick for him.
Dude's like what, 6'8"?
How bad you are.
6'9".
Yeah,
Dude's
he's
just,
big
like,
and he's
built to be a
disruptive.
DN. Like
At least you could got like a 3rd or 2nd or maybe a
What-
4th, but a 5th.
And what gets
Like,
me
come on. He's old, but
is
especially to Baltimore. Baltimore would have gave him more
this
to get him.
is what gets me is the
so.
Malik Jackson move. Going to Philly that after they lose. Malik Jackson in 2015 was the lead defensive tackle for, and this is coming from me, in my opinion, the greatest playoff defense that I've ever seen in Denver. He was with the Von Millers and the DeMarcus Wares and that crazy defense that shut down the league's number 1 offense. Then he goes to Jacksonville, does the same thing, and now he's in Philly doing the same thing. If I was the Eagles, I wouldn't let that man move out of his apartment or house in Philadelphia.
I agree.
Dude has proven he's an elite defensive tackle everywhere he's been.
I agree.
That pretty much covers the Jags. I know I kind of did all of it, but, that's how I do
pretty
my
much covered
topics.
everything I had to say, so I don't really have too much to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, with Jacksonville, like Carl said, I mean, this team could go 0-16. You look at the division they're in. Houston, even though Houston will have a downfall with which we're going to cover that in just a second because I got to talk about it. Houston with the DeAndre Hopkins issue going to be down, but they still have Deshaun Watson. You have the Titans, who I am one of the very few people who think the Titans are going to have a massive drop-off. Ryan Tannehill does not do that again. Derrick Henry does not do that again. No. And then with the Colts, I could see them being 7-9, or I could see them being 12-4. It all depends on one thing, and that is Phillip Rivers' ability to not turn the ball over. And then Jacksonville's just there. And like I said, just to get off of Jacksonville, you go to Houston. I mean, you trade arguably the best receiver in the league. I mean, obviously, I don't think he is, but I think it's Julio. But you arguably trade the best receiver in the league for a stack of gum. And David Johnson, whose contract is one of the worst I've ever seen. Ever since 2015, he's been terrible.
Yep.
Like, I don't get it.
That's another bag of worms,
Like,
gosh.
I mean, that's like the Falcons trading freaking Julio for a 7th-round pick and a freaking 60 overall Madden player.
Even Madden said they wouldn't have done it. So that tells you.
Well, we ain't gonna get into Madden's trade logic. Carl and I could talk about that for a whole podcast.
It ain't worth it.
It ain't. Is that all we're talking about? Or are you doing like one final question?
We got one more big topic and then the one final.
We have another topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a new segment on here that we are doing for the next 4 podcasts. The fall of once elite college football programs. The 4 in order will be Florida State, USC, Texas, and Virginia Tech. Starting with the Florida State Seminoles. You have one of the greatest coaches of all time. Multiple national championships, 21 bowl wins, over 370 career wins, 12 ACC championships. And then in comes Jimbo Fisher. He took over. And he was all right first couple years. I mean, but then came 2013. In came a quarterback by the name of Jameis Winston.
Crab legs.
One of the best teams to ever play in college. I mean, they were blowing teams out by 40 points every single week. And then they get to and Carl can go into like mad details about this because this is his school, but they end up beating Auburn in the national championship. They did struggle early, but beating Auburn in the national championship, and then they come back, and 2013, just to go about it, that was, if you're asking me, it's the best ACC school I've ever seen, and that includes 2018 Clemson.
Nope. That's a different topic, but no.
hey, this is a podcast. We're allowed to disagree. But then 2014 happened. And, everybody's expecting them to be great again. And, yeah, they went undefeated until the Rose Bowl, but they were in games they shouldn't have been in. They were only there because they were undefeated. They shouldn't have even been in the playoff that year. And it got proven when they got their butts smacked by Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Kirk Herbstreit said it best in that game. They gave up after, I think, Oregon's defensive touchdown when Jameis Winston literally threw the ball behind his head. They gave up. How are you going to give up in a Rose Bowl for a chance to go play for the national championship? And then after that, they were average. And then Jimbo goes to A&M. And then you have DeAndre Francois, who played great in his rookie year, gets hurt against Bama, and he's now playing for some FCS Division III school. So then Jimbo leaves. And then Willie Taggart.
Oh, man.
Good God.
Willie Taggart, I don't know if you can see this or not, but Willie Taggart was a head coach at Oregon who said Oregon was his dream job, and then bolts for Florida State and takes half of his recruits with him, which how Oregon's doing right now, thank God. So Willie Taggart is saying, oh, this is going to be a new year. And then comes the opener in 2018. Florida State, heavily favored, hosting Virginia Tech.
Oh, man.
Yes,
Tech
sir.
kicked their ass. Florida State couldn't do anything offensively. Tech had a blocked punt for a touchdown. Tech really wasn't that great offensively either. Their defense was just crazy. And I remember a lot of Tech players and the Tech fans were at that game were mocking the war chant.
Yes, sir.
Which is funny because me coming as a Tech fan, I have now adopted that into the Fire Fuente.
Yes, sir. Get him out of there.
But yeah, and then that year after losing to Tech, they finished 5-7, their first losing season in 2 decades, almost 3. And then he got fired this past year because he was sucking again. Florida State didn't make it a bowl game, and then in comes Mike Norwell, and nobody knows really what to expect from Florida State this year. Obviously, they're in the ACC Atlantic, which is Clemson, so I'll leave it at there. Like I said, Carl can fill in the big details since it is his school.
Yeah, you pretty much touched on everything again. Jimbo Fisher was the heir apparent to Bobby Belden for 3 years before Belden actually retired. I don't know why we let Jimbo leave, other than the fact that he wanted to, and we were honoring him for what he did in 2013. But there was no reason to let Jimbo just walk. Between the last national championship in '99 and then 2013, we made a bowl game every year, but we had a lot of bad teams that shouldn't have been that good enough to win 6 games to be bowl eligible. Willie Taggart was a misfire. He can't recruit. He couldn't coach.
Nope.
He doesn't know how to motivate players.
Nope.
He doesn't need to be coaching college football because he doesn't know how to talk to college-aged athletes. We bring in Mike Norwell, which I don't know much about him, but there's already been some controversy over the last couple of weeks about him supposedly having meetings with the African-American players on the teams, and those meetings never actually happening to discuss what's going on in the world. heading into this coming up season, I think we win 6 games. We get a bowl game, but I don't see us winning more than 7 in any situation. But we have a lot of holes to fill now because the players Taggart did bring with him weren't good players to begin with.
No.
So now we have to make up for the recruiting loss of the talent that's on the team that isn't actually there. And then Norwell's got to bring in his own talent that is very unknown at the moment. The 2013 team was it's a once in a lifetime for a school thing. You don't get that very often. You're playing with Jameis Winston, who, if he could have left after his redshirt sophomore season or redshirt freshman season, he probably should have, because coming into 2014, he was not prepared to play another whole season again at the level that we played at in 2013. The Rose Bowl loss was tough to sit through, but at the end of the day, I think it's what we needed. We needed to be shown that we could lose and lose badly for us to continue to grow. So that's where I'll leave that. I think with Norwell, we could get back on the winning path, and Clemson's not going to be great forever. That's how college football works. It's a 4 or 5 year swing up or down.
Unless you're Alabama.
I definitely think that'd be a good place for us to start. I expect a lot of bad losses and a couple of close wins this year, but I think we'll get back to a bowl.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to it, and Florida State's schedule this year, they got to play West Virginia, who's kind of an unknown. They got to play Boise again, who's going to be really good. I mean, obviously they got to play Clemson, which is going to be a destruction. But yeah, like he said, I could see them going 6-6. But no, really more than that. 7-5 maybe. But they also have to play Florida, and Florida's easily a national championship contender this year. I think they are. I don't think Alabama's going to be as good as people think unless they go to their true freshman 5-star quarterback recruit, which I think they will. But I think Florida and Bama are kind of the two teams to beat out in the SEC. And I can, any rivalry, Florida and Florida State. Florida don't like losing Florida State. Florida State don't like losing Florida. It's that simple. It's just like, Tech and Virginia and Ohio State and Michigan. And even though Ohio State and Michigan has been so one-sided for the past 10 years, it doesn't really matter at this point.
That's like a bad marriage.
So that pretty much cleans it for the Florida State topic. Next week we'll go into USC, which has a lot more to do with recent events, considering the dissociation about Reggie Bush. But I guess we'll go off with one more kind of multiple choice like we did last week, even though nobody got to see it. And then we'll end things from there and probably try to do this again either next week or the week after, just depending when our schedules line up again. This week's kind of one choice is kind of going off into position debate, but it's more of a more difficult question, and it's the most underrated head coach in the National Football League.
Ooh. Underrated. I'm going to go super biased. I'm going to say Frank Wright.
Fair. I can agree with that.
I'm going to say Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin?
He's always had a good relationship with his players.
Yeah, I can go with that.
I'm going to go Doug Peterson.
Fair.
For good reason.
This is, and I know this is probably going to be a very popular pick, but it doesn't really get shown, and that is Andy Reid. Yes, he just won a Super Bowl, but he doesn't get talked about enough as he should. And even though Kansas City is not going to be a contender for years and years and years, just due to their monies, I mean, it's simple. He's put that team together. He doesn't get talked about enough. He's up there with the Belichicks. He's up there with the Harbaugh. He's up there with some of the other elite coaches in the NFL. And he doesn't get talked about. So the best coach to me in the NFL, until proven otherwise, will still be Bill Belichick. We'll see how that goes this year. But all good points. I think when it comes to what y'all said, I believe Frank Wright is the most underrated of the three that y'all brought up. And the only reason I say that is because Mike Tomlin and Doug Peterson have Super Bowls.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys. That was fun.
All right, boys.
All right. Well, guys, that was episode 2/1 of the Boyz podcast, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yes, sir, boys. Catch y'all later.
See you guys.
Hey, boys.
Yeah.